I'm Nick Hughes, and this is Founders Live Conversations.
All right. So what I want to do is welcome you to, Founders Live Conversations. Traditionally, I have actually interviewed and highlighted founders from, in various cities. And we've done that actually in-person conversations, actually recorded professionally, sat down in front of cameras. Clearly, we can't do that now, but what that does is opens up to a lot more opportunities for a lot more entrepreneurs to be able to be interviewed and highlighted. So what we are going to do is have a great conversation with our guest of today, Oliver Sholder. He is out of Portland, Oregon, and he is founder of the Everpeak Partners. Oliver, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Before we get started, would love to just have you share a little bit more about yourself. Obviously, you're standing in front of a background that has Portland, so really, really great to see that. And I can share some experiences from Portland. I was down there in February. I'm actually sitting in Washington. That's where I'm from. But tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of how you got to the point of your current company, Everpeak.
Sure. Well, I have worked for 5 different Salesforce consulting firms, and I've been in this field now for about 7 years. And Everpeak is about almost 3 years old now. And when I was looking at starting my own consulting firm, what I wanted to do was really kind of take the best of all the different firms and roll it up into one. Like literally there was one firm I worked for that had a great time tracking system and another firm where it didn't really work well. And I've seen groups that are really focused on sales and less focused on customer success, and firms that are really focused on customer success, but they're not really growth oriented. And I sort of wanted to take the best of all these different firms and put my own spin on it. And for those who don't know what we do, we are a Salesforce consulting firm. So we're basically a partner with Salesforce. We're not part of Salesforce. We're an independent consulting firm, but the focus of the company is to help businesses to better leverage the platform, which is quite broad, ranging from custom development to sales process to UI integrations, etc. And we're a team of 8 right now.
Awesome.
So a little bit of context there.
Awesome. Yeah, and I want to get to the aspect of, even diving into some of the questions around Salesforce and how you help companies navigate that. Obviously, it's a unique tool and unique ecosystem. Clearly, you have some insight on that. What I wanted to start with, though, man, it's let me give you a little context, and I'm not sure. Just a quick question: were you at the Founders Live Portland that I was there in February?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I was down there in February. Most of the month I spent in Portland, Oregon. I am I'm actually from Seattle, but I've been traveling around for the last year and a half. And, Portland, I was there in February, and that's kind of when things started to shift a little bit. Obviously, March, it really affected. But man, I've been thinking about this. I'm like, I had such a good time in Portland, and I just kind of daydream sometimes to go back. It feels like a world ago, right? I mean, doesn't February feel like years ago?
Yeah. I mean, we're in pretty unique times right now, and I kind of feel like each week that goes by, it feels like a lot more time. I think just because there's so much, so many things off the table that it forces us to really focus on ideally what what are the fundamentals that we need to be doing.
Yeah. And how, you mentioned you have a team and you have, remind me, do you have co-founders or is it just yourself?
So actually Tom Flynn, who's on this call, he's our chief revenue officer. Danny Fry is like, I've, the way I look at him is he's sort of like in line to be like a partner. But when I founded the company, it was just me and one other sort of admin configuration support person.
Got it. So what specific question on the times of today, and then we're going to back up and kind of talk about more of in general what you're building. But I feel like, I think everyone here right now that's on is this is top of mind, this situation and how you're handling it. When you saw that this was going to be this is a big issue, when you saw that things started to really tighten up in the United States, what was your initial approach to your team? What did you initially turn to them and gather the team and say, oh my God, this is happening. Here's what we're going to do.
Yeah. So I think when it really, I think it wasn't clear, this situation has progressed from this thing in China that did a little ding to the stock market to a whole bunch of steps to where we are now, where everything's basically shut down and remote. So it was never like, oh, there's no issue, now there's an issue. It was just something that was evolving. I think what really hit home for us was there was a project we were going to do. It was about a $30,000 project with a solar company out in Seattle, which has gotten hit pretty hard by COVID-19. And they basically went from we want to move forward with this to we're putting this on pause until we, for some time until we figure out what's going on with COVID-19. And then in the days following that, we had several clients that were on sort of pay-as-you-go programs that basically said, hey, we want to pause or we want to taper down a little bit. And fortunately, we do a lot of remote work. The whole team's here in Portland, and we do a lot of, I'd say probably 1 in 4 meetings that we have are in person. So when this really, when the lockdown took place, number one was sort of the financial hit that we were going to take. I estimate, and everything is sort of a lagging indicator because most of the projects that we're working on were closed some time ago. But I think like the next quarter or two will be down probably 30% or so, maybe 40%, 30 to 40% because of this. And so I told the team, like, hey, this is my projection. Things are going to be a little bit slower. We're also going to try to counteract that by we've been doing a lot more internal work on our own systems. So getting a better marketing automation system in place. We use Salesforce internally, and we have all kinds of things going on with that. Building a better proposal process, doing some upgrades to the website, while at the same time also doing some sales strategy work so that we can really make a big push. And in terms of like the actual delivery, I've sent an email out to all of our clients saying we're doing 100% remote. We're still fully operational. No one on our team has, at the moment, reduced capacity to do work. So, that was our message to our clients. And then internally, doing a bit more focus on internal work, and then also planning sort of a push on sales.
Nice. It sounds like you identified quickly that there was, this was going to be a thing, a big thing, and articulated with your team specific things. And then more importantly, and what I like is choosing to use this time to dig internally to do some of that work. I've been saying to a number of people, although difficult this time is for sure, it also is given us opportunity to take the time to dive in and do some internal cleaning or fixing or changes that during normal times we might not have the time to do, and we might not be paying attention to some of the internal things, or maybe I don't know, for internally for Founders Live, there's been some things that have been bothering me for a while that it's just time to go inside and actually remove those and rework. So sounds like you've been using this time at least as efficiently as possible.
Mm-hmm. We try.
We try. Well, let's shift a little bit to tell us a little bit more about how you got into, did you choose to be an entrepreneur? How did you essentially get into the position of starting your own business, and especially why in the area of Salesforce consultancy?
Sure. So
hold on. I wanted to make a note. If you are thinking about a question for Oliver, please feel free to shoot it right in the chat box. Basically, that means you're raising your hand, and then we will address questions as we go through. So feel free to throw some questions in there, or even just say, hey, Nick, I've got a question in the chat room. All right. Sorry. Go ahead, Oliver.
Thanks. Yeah. So I would say it started when I was pretty young. So I did a bunch of little tiny entrepreneurial adventures when I was a kid. In high school, I was really into photography, and I never thought of it as a business. And I had someone ask me to take their portraits, and she paid me $20 at the end. And I didn't even know I was going to get paid. And I was like, oh, I can actually make money from this. And I started a photography business in high school. And funny enough, I actually learned that the sales and the process of, either getting inbound requests for photography or reaching out to people to let them know that I'm offering these services, that there was a process to it. And I actually kept a whole Excel spreadsheet that was basically a makeshift CRM to do that. And in high school, shot tons of portraits and eventually started doing weddings, and actually made pretty decent money at it from someone in high school. And then did it a little bit in college, but I went to college in a different city, and it sort of died down a little bit. But I really enjoyed the entrepreneurial component of it, and the business side, and the the ability to really bring in as much business as I can based off of how I can communicate and sell the value of the service I'm providing. And in college, I studied business, and I got an internship my senior year that was with a firm that was related to, I ended up getting into some Salesforce, doing some Salesforce work through that. And then from that took on more and more Salesforce related work and got certified. And then the firm was actually shifting more and more towards, the firm was basically a CRM implementation firm. And I was one of the Salesforce experts. Well, actually at the time I wouldn't call myself an expert early on. And, that's kind of how I got into the Salesforce field, and I really enjoyed it. because it's very impactful. And it's one of those things that I think a lot of people don't want to deal with because they don't understand how to do all the technical configuration. And I hear a lot of people who say they're like banging their head against the wall. They're trying to run this one report and they just want the, like the lead source on the y-axis and they can't get that. I learned a lot from working with a bunch of really smart, savvy clients who didn't know Salesforce as well as I did, but knew a lot about sales and operations and running a business. And so I feel like I'm kind of the beneficiary of, even though I was the consultant, and I had my domain that I was providing value in, it was a phenomenal learning experience. And I had done about 5 years of consulting before I founded Everpeak. And so I was the beneficiary of learning from some really top level sales VPs, like people, Harvard MBA, and they've been selling with this company for 20 years. They've tried everything imaginable and they've found the things that work. And also another service that I would provide, and now we provide through Everpeak, is marketing automation consulting, and specifically with a tool called Pardot, which is a product of Salesforce. And so really building a holistic sales and marketing process for these companies, and going from a janky system to something that's very efficient and scaling. And there's something very rewarding about doing that.
Interesting. We have a few questions. We're gonna go with Ken first, and then Jonathan. Ken, if you want to take yourself off mute, and I would like you to give a little more context and even just ask your question of what you were thinking here.
Sure. I was just wondering what Salesforce thinks about Everpeak and these other consulting firms. I always wonder if they're partners, competitors, potential acquirers, or if you guys come up with some fantastic value add, is that something Salesforce will copy, or how does that work?
That's a great question. So I get brought in on a lot of calls where people think that we're part of Salesforce or we work for Salesforce. So I have to clarify that. We are a partner with Salesforce. So they have a partner program. It took about 6 months of vetting. You need at least 2 people who are certified. You need references and kind of a little bit of a track record to join the program. And then there's some fees that you have to pay. So we are considered a registered partner, and part of it is like we get to say that, and there's a little logo we can put on our marketing material. But we actually work with Salesforce, so a lot of their account executives will bring us in to do the implementation. And the simplest way to describe it is that Salesforce builds the software, and then they have partners to implement. Although it gets a little bit fuzzy because they offer some like quick start type packages, and they offer some support services that do compete with us a little bit, but they also recognize the importance of the partner network, and that it's a much more decentralized and a much more local type of engagement that feels more personalized than getting it from a 40,000 employee tech firm.
Yeah, this is good. Interesting. Thank you for answering that question. And, it sounds like they're, you're essentially, simply put, you are selling and promoting and helping others with their product. So, why would they not appreciate that? I think it just sounds like it's more of like, you got to be go through some processes of acceptance and obviously, understanding the right terminology and the way to, help people with the product and understanding the product. Is that really just the alignment?
Yeah. Oh, and something I forgot to mention is they do a lot of partner enablement and partner training. And I've actually been to their HQ in San Francisco and another office in Seattle. And they do a lot to kind of support us and really, make it feel like it's a team effort.
Got it. So Jonathan, definitely, sorry, Jonathan, unmute yourself and give a little more context to your question. And yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, sure thing. Hi, everyone. First, thanks for making the time. I'm also from Portland, so that's pretty cool. Not many companies are founded there. And so I'm wondering if you put a lot of thought into where you would be founding Everpeak. Why did you decide in Portland? Was it a matter of convenience? Or did you consider, as you were saying, like you went to Salesforce HQ down in the Bay Area, did you consider moving closer to this huge partner of yours? Or maybe moving up north to Seattle, any other locations?
That's a great question. So I have been going down to San Francisco, I'd say about once per quarter. And when I go to the Salesforce office, I see some of our competitors and specifically some of the much larger ones. So like a Deloitte or Accenture, their offices are on the same block as the Salesforce HQ. And they've got, they're actually the largest employer in San Francisco. I think they have like a couple towers with about 15,000 employees. And I've definitely thought about San Francisco, and actually Seattle, San Francisco, and Portland are three of my favorite cities. And those are also cities that we have a lot of clients in and sell to and visit a lot. Before I founded Everpeak, though, I had bought a house in Portland not too long before I founded Everpeak. So definitely planted some roots and absolutely love the lifestyle here. I can walk a few blocks to all kinds of restaurants and bars. Basically everything I need is within walking distance, but it's also a kind of a cozy neighborhood with tree-lined streets and not all the craziness of downtown. But really like the culture of Portland. There's also, you could put cities in different tiers. And I would say like a tier 1 would be San Francisco or New York. Then there's tier 2, which probably Seattle and a handful of other cities would fall into. And then like tier 3, and you could probably categorize it in all kinds of different ways based off of like, startup capital, seed funding, GDP for the city. But I feel like Portland is big enough to have a great client base in. And, we're not limited to Portland, but we're also really big into being local. And we have a lot of well-known, they're not nationally well-known, but within Portland, they're very well-known businesses in the community. And we enjoy having a reputation for this city. So that's, I guess back to the question of like, why Portland? I think it's a very strategic location because it's a lower cost of living than, San Francisco is pretty nuts with the cost of living and Seattle's pretty high. But we're also, right next to those two cities that are powerhouses. We have a lot going on here. And then another thing that is really unique for us is Salesforce has 2 headquarters. Their main is in San Francisco. And then they acquired a company called Tableau in Seattle for about $15 billion. And then they made that their second headquarters. And with us collaborating a lot and working with their account executives and vice presidents and people internally, we're very well positioned being in the one, the largest city between these two tech powerhouse cities.
Well, and let's put it this way, given what's happening now and what it looks like going forward, the remote aspect, or even just the way that we're working, is changing. And I think living in a specific city is going to be less drastic and more just, it is what it is. And I think we're going to see much more regional things popping up, as well as just, I think the changes going forward, which we don't even know, are going to be more positive to living in various mid-tier cities versus what it was in the last 10, 20 years, given what we're going through now and all that. And I think the last thing I would say on this topic is it is going to be interesting to see how capital is deployed in various parts of the country, if not the world, with all this change. Because traditionally there's been like the pockets of, investment. Like when you look at venture capital specifically, you look at, Silicon Valley, Bay Area, you look at New York, you look at Texas, you look at the Pacific Northwest, but it still has some work to do. And those are the main pockets, and maybe even Massachusetts, so the East Coast. But then a lot of the other areas of the country have been kind of left to just have little bits and pieces. That's probably going to change. And so it's an exciting aspect. So I think living in Portland, or whatever city that you might find yourself in, if you're watching here, it's less of a big deal now than it was before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Speaking of that, we have a question actually from Zimbabwe. And I am going to open it up. I would like Todd. Sorry. Yeah. Please say your name, because I have trouble with the name. But yeah, expand on your question, and would love to hear from you.
All right. My name is Todzai.
Yes.
Or you can just call me Todd.
Todd, what's going on? Yeah. Great. What's your question?
Sure. So until recently, I was working for an international bank. So we were working with, in terms of softwares, in terms of customer relationship and analytics. And I recently left my job, and I started a wholesaling business. But then what you then find is that in Zimbabwe and most of the emerging markets, or also for Africa, is that mobile money has really become a huge platform which is used by a lot of customers to make their payments. So Oliver, maybe I just wanted to get your view in terms of any development of coming up with sales analytics that are underpinned by mobile money, as mobile money has become almost a de facto means of payments, and how we'll then be able to best get insights from that.
Do you mean like capturing payment data and then getting analytics on it? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we do integrations with NetSuite, which is a sort of a more enterprise ERP and accounting system, QuickBooks, which many small and mid-sized businesses use, and a number of other accounting systems. And all of that data should flow into that accounting system. We could actually integrate with something like Stripe, which is a payment credit card processor. But Salesforce is basically your data warehouse. And from there, you can run all kinds of reports and get analytics. And there's a new feature from Salesforce called Einstein. And it's basically their AI platform. And they were smart in realizing that all these companies house their data in the platform. And so it's a great add-on to be able to have some artificial intelligence that can identify trends and provide actionable insight, like, hey, this particular segment of your business is behind what it's usually at, and this other one is above. Maybe you should reach out to these leads that haven't been touched that are in this segment. And there's all kinds of insights that you can get, and any type of data can flow in there. A lot of people think of Salesforce just as a sales tool, but it's really a platform where you do sales, marketing, customer success, support. You can even build like human resources tools, or really anything that you want on the platform. And when it houses all that data, you can slice it and dice it in any way that you want. So I guess specifically on your question about analyzing sales data, you would just have to build that integration, and then you would say, like, what are the KPIs that we're focusing on, and then build some analytics around that.
Hey, Tadzai, are you in Harare?
Yes, I'm in Harare.
Did we meet when I was there?
Unfortunately, I was out of town when you came through.
Oh man. Well, okay. When you talk about mobile money, are you talking about EcoCash?
Yeah, I'm talking about IncoCash and the likes of M-Pesa.
Got it. All right. So Oliver, check this out. Are you familiar with M-Pesa or EcoCash?
I'm not.
All right. So I was in Zimbabwe in November last year, November, handful of months ago, and I was able to see exactly and live exactly how they're living over there with mobile money. So what he's talking about is, actually imagine Verizon or AT&T. Basically, this is your transaction ability to. This is your bank, and this is your debit card, and you would transact by simply sending a text message through the system, and you're basically paying whether it's a person or a merchant, or so if you're running a business, and EcoCash is literally pretty much the predominant way that people are transacting in this society. And so it's pretty, I would just say it's rudimentary in the sense that it's tied to your mobile phone number. You attach, from your bank, if you have a local bank in Harare, Zimbabwe, you put that card on there, or you put money in, kind of like PayPal, and that's how you're transacting. Now, I think the interesting part of his question is how, if they wanted to use Salesforce, is there a way to take, is there APIs enough that you can pull, if there's a way to pull the data from EcoCash, that on a daily and weekly basis, that's the way that they're accruing, that's how their transactions are ran. Exactly. Yeah, and then be able to pull it into Salesforce platform so they can analyze their sales numbers and volume, and then projections on top of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so anything that has a open API can be integrated with Salesforce. And you could probably Google it and find out. In fact, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it on the fly here, but a very large percentage of applications have an open API. And in layman's terms, what that means is that you can pull data out of this system into another system, and you can push data into it. And so as long as it has an open API, Salesforce has an open API, and you can use middleware solutions. So there are pre-built tools that can help you basically avoid having to custom code the integration. And a lot of those save time, and usually they have a monthly fee to use them. Or you can just write code that basically pulls data right from that source and pushes it into Salesforce. So if it does have the open API, you could get that data into Salesforce. And what I was mentioning before is any type of data can be housed. You have all kinds of fields, text fields, drop downs, check boxes, currency, etc. And if you could get it in there, it could be a great tool of like, start with a bar graph of what your, revenue is per day or per week or per month. And then you could group it by different products and group it by different regions and get all kinds of different stats from it. And it is a very powerful reporting engine.
So Tadze, I would maybe suggest number one, if you can't find local developers that might be able to help you with this process. Number two, if this is essentially from EcoCash to something like Salesforce, if there's not a tool that easily does that, there's a business opportunity there, because I'm sure that there's a lot of need in your country to get this sort of product into the hands of the businesses. Because I was there seeing EcoCash is the predominant way, but it's so rudimentary, but the majority of consumers are using that to transact, and businesses need that data and intelligence. So it's a thought.
Hey, so I just Googled it, and I actually found they have an API. So, and obviously this was just a brief Google search. So to be totally sure about the specifics, you'd want to do more due diligence, but it looks like they have an API. So that basically means you can pull data, like data as in, a credit card number or the amount for the transaction or the product code or whatever pieces of information are captured by that and push it into whatever system you want.
Awesome. Hey, this is great. We want to move on. And Nicholas over in Denver has a question. I'm going to allow you to expand on that. So jump in here, man.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Hey, so Oliver, one of the things that I find challenging in working with clients and potential clients of mine is leveraging the software or the platforms and so forth that they're using. And so the question that I had was about whether or not you do in the consulting that you do for Salesforce, do you go far afield from the immediate use of the data and how people are leveraging Salesforce, or do you, more specific to what I do, which is customer experience, do you do anything like, okay, well, let's now talk about your broader customer experience program and how you approach it and how it strategically works within your organization, or just kind of like end at the, okay, well, let's get you up and running and here's how you can get it all the data?
Yeah, that's another great question. We make a huge push to help our clients from a holistic viewpoint. And there are firms out there that you can hire, and they're like the tech guys. They know the technology. If you have a technical question, they'll ask it. If you have a specific requirement, they'll figure out how to do it with the technology. But what makes us different from that is that we are also business analysts, and we're also process consultants. And so we help our clients build the processes as well. And we do a lot to really look at the system, and especially with you said you were you said it was customer experience, right?
Yeah, CX. And I help my clients with not just the customer experience, but that's a broader thing. You have to think about how it fits into your strategy. You have to think about voice of the customer. You have to think about process improvement as well, and how you're going to leverage the information, the insights that you get from your voice of the customer, all the way out to building that customer-centric culture within your organization as well. So it's kind of an end-to-end. I mean, advertisement for Zeisler Consulting here. But yeah, I mean, it's just that I don't work with that technical side, so that's really interesting. How you can help them end to end like that. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the keeping in mind, you can call it customer experience most of the projects that we do focus around sales. I'd say probably 60 or 70% are sales focused, and really thinking about like the automated messaging. Does this make sense in a cadence after they've had 2 phone calls, and looking at the stages and like what is the process that the sales development rep or the account executive is going through, and then what does that feel like to the customer or prospective customer. So I think it's always, there's a lot of areas where you can put yourself in the shoes of someone else, whether it's the customer or the user of the system, and that's extremely important, because I've seen and we've gotten clients that all the technical boxes were checked, and you might say like, oh well, the system should work great, but there were gaps in their process and things that didn't flow naturally. So really sort of making it so that you don't feel like you're fighting with the system to do your job.
Nice. Awesome. All right. We do have some more time. So be thinking, if you do have a question, feel free to kind of raise your hand in the chat room. Oliver, I had some thoughts on, there are some people on here that obviously are running businesses, if not just thinking about starting one or just now starting one. What would you have in terms of maybe 2 pieces of advice for someone really just starting out? What would be the things to do out of the gate? The 2 like smartest things you can think of, especially right when they're coming out of the gate, starting their company.
I love that question. I don't know how many people would give the first answer that I'm going to give here, but you should have your life in order. And I think especially with, I think specifically like health and finances, you should have a good routine. You should be eating well and getting exercise and getting good sleep. And there's a million different like hacks that you can do. Basically every morning I take a hot shower for a minute or 2, and I'll just turn it as cold as it can possibly go, like ice cold. And I'll do a cold shower for a little bit. I've actually had mornings where I'll bike down to the river, which is like ice cold, and I'll jump in the river and then bike back to my house. And if I don't do some of these things, I don't feel like I'm as productive as I could be. So I think like your health and your vitality plays a big role into how you come across to other people. And obviously communication is really important when you're starting a business. So making a good impression. And then having your finances in order, just so you don't stress yourself out with like, oh, I'm running out of money. And a lot of startups take time to actually generate revenue, especially if you're trying to build a product. There's a lot of steps that go into like, hey, we have $30,000 a month in recurring revenue. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think, specifically on the business, just a bunch of like checking the boxes on business 101, like have a plan, have, like a CRM system, an accounting system, have a good website, and make sure that whatever you're offering aligns with a need out there. I think a lot of people try to like put their idea out there and then sell it. And this is kind of, what I did was fill a need that already existed. So I could probably go on and on for a while, but that's what comes to mind first.
No, those are great pieces of advice. And I think I could just I would add a couple 2 cents on the importance, and I agree that, you know, it's like your first answer was less common from most of the entrepreneurs and people that have done it before, but it's actually the most important, which is, you know, having your life in order in a way that minimizing chaos in your personal life will maximize your opportunity and your potential for success in your business life. Those are literally like, you know, it's the opposite sides of a balance, and it's very difficult to be successful in any sort of professional or business nature when you're trying to manage the chaos that is in your personal life. So you know, there, you know, obviously there's many things to think about by doing that, but I think that was a great suggestion. And you know, that leads me to the next question, which is, do you think, this is personal, just your personal perspective, do you think, given the amount of chaos and just people being upended in their life, in their job, or, you know, they're getting let go, maybe it's unemployment happening, do you think more people are going to start companies, at least because it's an option, or do you think not, because there's more chaos personally in their life and they would choose not to start a business? Well, I'm not going to give my opinion yet. Go ahead.
I wouldn't be surprised if overall there's more new businesses started. I think people who have more savings, so like more cash in the bank, now is a great opportunity. I know people who have been starting businesses while they're collecting unemployment, and you know, there's a lot of money going around. That's a lot of handouts right now, and if you have that runway, then it could be a good time. If you've got 1 month of living expenses in the bank and a bunch of high bills, it might be more challenging to keep yourself afloat. But I think there's a lot of, you know, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they come from all different areas, but there's a lot of them who were, you know, working in sales or working as a product manager, and they see an opportunity, and then they'll start it on the side, and it'll be gradual. And I think there's going to be some people that lost their job, see an opportunity, and want to go for it. And there's more resources than ever. The sales world is pretty crazy right now. I get people pitching me all kinds of things every day, and there's a lot of noise. But I think the people who can have a clear product vision and find people who want their product or service can do really well right now. So the short answer is I think that's going to go up, and I think it's as some doors get shut, others are opening up.
Yeah, I think we're in the same direction. I feel necessity is going to be massive in the next year to even, it's going to extend years. Necessity in terms of personal, you know, personal necessity of what am I going to do? Where does my income come from? And, you know, a lot of people are going to think, well, if, you know, in the job market, if there is literally little to very much no job opportunities, necessity provides that that they would need to, or at least opt to do something on their own. Now, what does that look like? I think the economics are shifting. You know, you gotta, you know, no matter what timing your start of business, whether it's in a good market or a bad, you got to look at, is this like, what's the problem I'm solving? Is this something that people or companies will want to use or adopt or purchase? What is the appetite for that? What is the price point? And can we make it a profitable enterprise? But necessity is going to prove that over the next, I think, years. So that's why our bet for Founders Live is we're in a better position I think now than ever before, to bring these sort of experiences to people, to bring the inspiration, the education, the community, to help people grow businesses around the world. That's my view.
I definitely agree there.
Awesome. Any more questions? We're almost out of time, but I want to give you, any of you here listening, one more opportunity. You know, since we're about out of time, you know, feel free to jump in, unmute, and you know, basically let us know if you have a question, and we'll get to it. I'm sure you're thinking something. So yeah.
Hello, Nick and Oliver. Thanks for your insight and everything, and especially Salesforce. My question is regarding Dynamics CRM from Microsoft. How competitive that product is, and is Salesforce more expensive? Because I'm actually working on a startup myself. It's going to be a big decision that which CRM to go for. Is it Dynamics CRM or Salesforce? And obviously the cost is quite important as well in the early days. So yeah, go on. That's my question. That how do you compare Salesforce with Dynamics CRM in terms of functionality and the cost?
Good question. So I'll mention, when I first got into sort of the CRM development field, we were initially CRM agnostic. So I did implementations on Zoho. I've worked with Dynamics before, worked with HubSpot, and a number of other CRMs. And I always preferred working in Salesforce. Part of it is it's the market leader, so the most apps integrate with it. There's the most resources online to support it. There's the largest community of users. They pour more money into their platform than any of the other competitors. Their market share compared to Dynamics is something like 10x what they are. I don't know the exact figure, but it's significantly larger market share than Dynamics. It's funny, I'm actually watching this super awesome documentary about Bill Gates, and I have a lot of respect for Microsoft and for their vision, and I've got friends that work there as well. But I mean, in terms of the specifics for the CRM, Salesforce and Dynamics are two of the more expensive and more premium CRMs. So they're both CRMs that could be used by an enterprise business. I'm not a Dynamics expert, but I've actually done probably over the course of these years 3 or 4 migrations from Dynamics to Salesforce. And you know, I'm not really in the position to say what's, you know, I'm not a Dynamics expert, so I can't give you a great comparison, but I can say Salesforce is sort of the gold standard. So yeah, I don't, I'm sure there's places online where you can find more details about Dynamics, because I don't know, like, here's one. And actually, I've seen Salesforce has shared with me, because we've actually evaluated, or we've had clients that are looking at both, and they've sent me these sell sheets that have some points over Dynamics, but I really don't have the specifics. The main thing I can say is, you know, it's kind of like buying a off-brand, even though it is Microsoft. It's like you're going to have trouble integrating with different systems. I know the app marketplace for Salesforce is a lot bigger, just because the usage is much more widely spread. So that's the information that I can share about that.
Thank you, Oliver, for your insight on this and your opinion. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great to hear from you, Assam. And we are coming to the end of the hour, and really want to make sure that we end on time here for you all. So thank you, Oliver. This has been a great hour. Been fun to chat with you and learn more about not only your company and your journey, but what you do for the consulting world and Salesforce, and anyone that is interested in utilizing that CRM tool. Where can we find more information on you and your company?
Sure. You could go to everpeakpartners.com. That's our website. And probably the best thing to do if you want to connect or you've got questions is add me on LinkedIn. It's Oliver and then Sholder, which is with no U.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. This has been fun. Everyone else, thank you for joining in. Always a pleasure, and really enjoying these group events online. I guess the silver lining of a lot of this tremendously difficult stuff going on in the world is I think we're creating some new experiences and some new ways to connect. I mean, there's a number of different continents represented on this call today. So thank you so much. And we do this every week now. So be aware and eyes open to the next event, the next conversation that'll happen in a week. We're going to do these on Wednesdays at the same time. So thank you all, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nick.
Yep. Thank you all. See you later.